So the fractional CMO model has been growing dramatically over the last several years. You see it a lot in the technology space with, say, software companies, as well as all ranges of companies. And what you're finding is that a lot of marketers, and I'm a marketer myself, have jumped into this fractional CMO model. And the question is whether it's a good business model to be in. And I have a few different counterintuitive takes that you want to pay attention to. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the 4 downsides or risks to potentially going into the fractional CMO model full-time from my experience, as well as when it's a good fit for you and what to potentially do instead as an alternative to the CMO model. So let's get right into it. By the way, my name is Kevin, and I'm a marketing advisor and strategist, and I help companies of all sizes grow. And I've done interim and fractional CMO leadership for the last since about 2017, and I've since evolved into the advisory model, which I'll talk a little bit more about, and away from the fractional CMO model. So maybe that'll give you a hint into some of the reasons that I'm going to get into today. But let's just jump right into it. So the first one is that you end up sort of becoming an order taker or an employee-like figure. And what happens is, rather than being in control of your time and having control of your schedule, you end up basically having clients, after an initial period of time, start dumping tasks on you. And the problem with that is that it becomes an insatiable appetite and a need. And you have to decide whether you're going to become a manager or whether you're going to execute some of those and how it's going to blend. And frankly, those lines get really crossed. The realm of manager becomes maker, and suddenly you're being sucked into all kinds of projects and tasks that are very time and labor intensive and aren't very scalable. So how do you overcome that? That's a challenge for another day. I talk about that separately in other places. But the main thing you want to know is that it's going to become essentially a full-time job squeezed into a part-time role. And that's not good for you or your client. So it's really about managing expectations and making sure that they're aligned with what you are willing to offer. And your scope is very clear in terms of where the line is from executor to manager. And really, they want a set of hands to just execute and do everything at a fraction of the cost of hiring a full-time employee. And so you really want to gauge whether you want to do that kind of work at all from the starting point. So number 2 is they always want more from you. And so this goes back to that squeezing a full-time job into a part-time role, is that it's very easy to have ideas. It's very easy to say, yeah, I want to do all these things and I want you to do it. So when can that get done? And the reality is, unless you really constrain the type of work you do, how you do the work, or the amount of labor, time, hours, days per month you put in, then it becomes basically an unlimited appetite in a fixed period of time. So that's not good for you. That's not good for your clients. And it creates a little bit of disconnect. And the clients essentially feel like they're not getting enough value from you unless they're getting you to do all the things that they have on their wish list. Number 3 is it prevents you from scaling. So I found when I first got into this back in 2016, 17, is I sort of fell into it sideways. I just kind of innovated and left my agency slowly and started doing this kind of work, was that after 2 clients, I was basically maxed out. I had no room. I still had my agency work on the side, and I had no room to scale it, and I had no time. And so I was forced to move into a more leveraged business model. It was also very time intensive, and that's, we'll get into that in just a second, but I had basically 2 clients and I couldn't scale. So that created a key client risk, which is not ideal for anyone, because if one client goes, suddenly that's, maybe a third or half or more of your revenue, depending on the client and depending on your setup. So I had an agency income coming along, and I had 2 CMO clients, and I knew I had to break free from that model in order to scale further. Your mileage may vary. You might be able to get 3 or 4, but frankly, it's very demanding with even 1 client if you're not very careful with how you manage it. So that brings us to number 4, is that number 4 is very labor and cognitively dense, meaning it has a high cognitive load. So you're always thinking about it. You're always thinking about moving the needle on the next project forward. You're managing projects, you're executing tasks, you're blurring the lines of what you're supposed to do. There's only so much time in a day. If you do offer day rates, then you're basically dedicating a day every week to someone else's business, and it's very hard to operate frankly in 1 day at a time, or you're splitting up in half days, and that can work for you as well, or you're just scattering hours around the week, and that creates a lot of task switching. And so all it is to say is that it becomes a very demanding thing to both be moving the ball forward on marketing for companies, and then also be doing that for someone else, and then also be running your own business and trying to manage your own growth and develop yourself as well. And so you really quickly run out of time to the point where you can't manage yourself and you can't work on your business to really help you scale and grow your own marketing, grow your own biz dev. So it's a very challenging capacity there. So those are the 4 big risks. There's many more of them, but at the end of the day, we've kind of folded in key client risk, where you could potentially lose some of those clients and take a lot of your revenue, the labor intensity of it, the order taker factor, where you're just sort of receiving tasks instead of really leading an engagement. So as best as you can, you want to fight back against that employee-like treatment, so that you can be a leader and remain impartial and do the right things for your clients. But it also creates that conflict of incentives that says, well, I want to do more stuff for you, but I'm running out of time. So, I'm kind of in this crossroads where I want to give you my best ideas, but I also just don't have time to execute on them. And so other factors go into play there. But so when is it a good thing for you to do? To me, I think the best time for someone to consider getting into this kind of work is maybe you're getting tired of running an agency and you want to break free from it and get into something more independent, that you don't have to mark up other people's time. You don't have to do all that jazz. You just basically get paid for your section of the work. And you want to earn a six-figure plus income pretty handily. You can do that with 1 or 2 clients. And so, especially if you're more senior, if you're a little more junior, it might be 2 or 3 clients, depending on what you can command. But usually I'm charging $5,000 to $10,000 a month for a managed marketing service, a fractional CMO style service. So it's good if you just want to make 6 figures and then be happy with a couple clients. And many of them will stay with you for a long time because it's a very compelling value proposition, and you'll probably over deliver, and then it'll be all good for them. But eventually the model sort of breaks down as people want more and more and more. And then they realize that it's very hard. They have to really make trade-offs. But if you want to make 6 figures and you want to have a few clients and you want to just have a stable income, great. It's a great thing to do. It's to me more fun than running an agency, but it's less scalable. My preferred method though, so what to do instead? My preferred method is to become an advisor. And so you charge, instead of $5,000 to $10,000 a month, you charge $2,000 to $5,000 a month, and you bring in other people to do execution for you, but the client manages the projects. And that way you're basically literally there to advise, to bring your own templates, your own methods, your own documentation, your own freelancers, your own agency partners, implementation partners, and you basically line up what needs to get done. You bring up your KPI sheet and you measure all the performance of things at the other end. But essentially you're looking at, how do you design a strategy? How do you create a plan? How do you do a budget? And how do you basically decide what projects are going to get done in what order, and then measure the success of that on the other end and remove roadblocks for the client. So if they don't know how to do something and they want to do it internally, maybe you do it with them over a call, and that's part of your strategy call session. But that's totally up to you in terms of how you want to run it. But to me, that's both more scalable, way lower cognitive load, and better aligned with the needs of your ideal client, rather than trying to squeeze everything into a very condensed amount of time, which ends up creating a very stressful position for you, and it kind of can create a little tension with you and your clients. Lastly, I'll just say, if you do want to pursue this and you have other things going on and this is not going to be your sole income, consider doing an interim CMO model where you drop in for 3 months, you set up the processes, set up the system, set up the projects, get things organized, fix their analytics, create a strategy, and then hand off the management of that to someone else, and you advise later on, whether that means you help them hire an in-house marketing manager, or you get freelancers lined up to run the marketing program, and then you advise on it. That's, to me, the middle ground where you can make a good amount of money up front, $10,000 per month, or again, your mileage may vary. And then you transition into a lower advisory retainer, where you have calls, say once every 2 weeks or once every week, and you're overseeing things, and you've basically put everything in place for your client now to manage. And so that works really well as well. But whatever you want to do, I would not make fractional CMO your long-term business model. At least that's my experience. If you're interested in more training like this, you can head over to kevin.me. I've got entire workshops, training, a whole membership dedicated to helping marketing strategists sell their expertise, not just their hands. So you can head on over there and you'll find links to the membership, as well as products and other good stuff. Tons of blog posts. Just look up fractional on my blog in the search bar at the very top, and you'll see a whole bunch of articles with pros and cons of the model and all kinds of nuanced thoughts. So head over there, get on the mailing list, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.